Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide. We are excited that you're here, and we are just going to get started this morning talking about business succession. Today's Tuesday, and on Tuesdays, we talk about legacy. And so, since we talk about legacy, this is going to be the day that we actually jump in here and really go kind of a little deeper, in the area of business succession. Last year, I wrote a trilogy called Built to Pass. And in one of those books, the title of that one was, um, I guess it was Creating a Legacy That Endures Because of You. And so we really, talked about in each of the books how to create built to pass strategies. And we really were centered in on these strategies of, there was, eight of them, I believe, that we kind of, actually, I'm sorry, there's 12 of them. And so we kind of wanted to really help people to understand the mindset you need to have if you are building a company and you're building the company to pass it along or sell it to someone else. And so, within the framework of the company, as you're building it, you need to be placing certain things and doing some things that will help you to have a well thought out strategy for passing the company along. So when we talk about passing the company down or passing it to someone else, one of the first things that comes to mind for me is passing the company to your children. And that's because I have children that I have some companies that I would love to pass to. And because of their framework, their thought process, their gifting, their purpose, they would make amazing people to pass the company to. However, what happens if you don't have children or you don't want to pass the company to your children or your children are not interested in taking on something that you built? They have other endeavors in mind and it's just not something that they want to do. Then you need to be thinking about other routes to succession, for yourself. Sometimes it may not be that you pass the entire company down, but other people have the strategy of creating the company in such a way that the people who work for it actually will own it after a period of time. I've seen several companies that have revenue shares and that have ownership shares in their company. They set it up in such a way that they pass beneficial ownership to people who have been running the company in the past or people who have been riding alongside of them while they've been building. And so that's always something that's in my mind as well is that if you are the person that has a company and it's not anywhere in your heart or mind to pass it to your children, or if you don't have children, what could you do with it? How would you structure the company so that it could be easily passed? And then something else that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this built to pass strategy, building a company that you can pass on, is when you're selling the company, that's also a pass. Okay, you're passing it to someone else. So, how do you build the company in a way that it's future proof, that it actually will be sustainable, that it will last in the future? The reason why I wrote these books, and I have to tell you because a lot of people ask me, why did you write the Built to Pass books? Well, there were three reasons. Okay, the first reason why I wrote the books is because of the fact that my parents both were entrepreneurs. They had jobs, but they also had really well thought out, well crafted plans for what they wanted to do in their downtime. My father was a brick mason and he played brick and put rocks on homes and built fences and brick fences. And he also, um, he poured concrete for foundations and he also poured concrete for patios and he built fireplaces and fire pits and all of these kinds of things. And so it was an amazing thing to watch him because when he would come home from his job, he worked for Boeing, but when he would come home from his job, he would leave, just enough time for him to get just a short nap, and he would get in his truck with his concrete mixer, attached, and there he went down the way to someone's home or some site to actually do his craft. And he did that, until he passed away. And so my thought is This was his passion. Why couldn't his company have lasted beyond him? What is it that happened there that did not, that prevented his company from still being around? Well, he didn't build his company to pass. He built his company to help make sure that we had the food and the shelter in our home, but not in the manner of making sure that it went on beyond him. It was not in his mind, because if it had been, he would have done it. And I know this because my father was also the person that had stock, he had bonds, he had all types of other things that would lead one to believe that he had succession on his mind, or he had some kind of thought, that would lead him to do things to prepare for the future. But for whatever, he had life insurance, he had, other kinds of things, but he did not build his company to pass it along. My mother, on the other hand, on the other side of things, she also had her passion. In addition to the fact that she was in advertising, and she did, quite a bit of different things with graphic design. She was amazing in that. That was her main daily driver, and eventually she became a church secretary and, an executive secretary. Actually, she went to training for that, but even alongside of that, she continued to do graphic design and continued in the area of advertising. But her main thing that she loved to do was to sew. She loved to make clothes and design clothes, and she was a pattern maker. And so her graphic art mindset, actually was also in the realm of drawing beautiful creations that she would turn around and sew. And she would make some of the most amazing things. She did weddings and made clothes for people for Easter and all types of things. Uh, I mean, it was just an amazing thing to watch all of this come out of her. But she also, although she had done some amazing things with her sewing and had, a legacy in our community for things that she had, passed around and created for prom dresses and homecomings and all of this, she did not build her company to pass it along. And so, unfortunately, those creations, um, though they were in the possession of people, they didn't go any further than that. So that was an issue for me. And it was always in my heart that if ever I would start a business from a really, really young girl, I thought about this. I wanted to make sure that I had something that would be known about, that people would be able to pass on. And I had it in my mind to do Patsy Couture, which is something that we're working on even now. Okay. So it was something that was in me about legacy. My parents planted it there, but they had no knowledge of how to actually execute it from a business standpoint. But in my mind, it was always there. Let's do this. Let's make sure that whatever it is that we do, that it's sustainable, that we can pass it on. Now, those are the two reasons. The third reason is because I worked for a company, and they had it in their mind that succession was the way. The company was built by a father who was passed on to a son and his wife, and it was being done in such a way that it was never going to, end. It was not a thought that it would be an end to the company. And at some point, when we got to the place of where the owner decided that, okay, we need to do something with the company, the first thing they were thinking of doing was selling it at that point. And I was a part of that company when it happened. When we started moving in the direction of selling the company, I wasn't there at the end, but I was there at the beginning of that process. And I got sent to class to learn how to prepare a company for sale. How do you, structure things? What is it that you do to increase the sellability of a company? And so I have an expressed view of this because I learned something about the word value, and I became a value builder. I'm certified as a certified value builder business advisor. And as such, there is a different thought process I have about value because of that program. The gentleman who's the founder of the program's name is John Warlow. He wrote an amazing book called Built to Sell. And when he wrote that book, he used that book as kind of our textbook when we were going through training. And so, being trained by John, it gave me a different thought process about value and passing something on. Whether I'm passing it on to the next set of managers or passing it along to my children or passing it along to the person who purchased it, I want to make sure that whatever company I built it to build it to pass. That it's a valuable company. So with that said, that kind of gives you the mindset with which I go through these built to pass strategies. So we're going to try and make our way through all 12 of them this morning, and hopefully you all will have an understanding of what it is that you need to be doing to build your company to pass. How can you be looking at things from the onset, even if you're just starting, to make sure that your company is built in a way that it can succeed you. It's not being done in such a way that, it's just, I'm going to do this now and whatever happens after me, oh well. And let me just say that too. I heard somebody say this recently. It's like, well, whatever my kids do, I don't really care because I won't be here. And I'm sitting here going, really? Is that really your mindset? Is that really what you're thinking? Or is it that you can't figure out how to ensure that your children have everything they need if they're going to run it? Because sometimes people make decisions because of the fact that they don't know what they don't know, how to fix it or how to make it work the way it's supposed to. And as a result of that, they get the don't care attitude, because they don't want to work that hard. But I am saying that, when you're thinking about something beyond you, when you live for the benefit of others and not just for the benefit of yourself, then building a company that, and especially if you're spending that much time to build a company, why not build it to last? I'm just saying, why not build it to pass? It makes sense. Okay. So, with that said, let's dive into this. So, the first strategy that I talk about, well, let me just say this. Okay. This message about building something to pass is really powerful in that it's a powerful, thoughtful planning process that is enduring, okay? And it's something that will become a theme for everything you do in your company if you allow it, okay? And so I want to say that first before I start even with the first strategy, because if you have this as the foundation, if it's kind of the underpinning of everything else in your company, it really will become something that every person that works with you, works for you, every vendor, they will feel it. They will become a part of it. I never forget, I watched a lot of things as I was growing up. And one of the companies that I watched, it was something in me. I mean, I'm writing case studies now, but I was doing case studies back then. 8, 9, 10 years old, I would be like, well, why does this McDonald's seem to have a lot more people than the one over by the church? And what is it that they're doing differently over here than the people over there? Now, I had no knowledge that McDonald's were franchises back then. I didn't know that there were some that were corporate stores, and the way that they ran them was different than the way that they ran the ones that were franchises. The same thing with Denny's. I would go into the Denny's that was near our home, and we would sit down and eat there, and I would be like, man, this Denny's is so clean, and there's the people here are so friendly. I don't want to go to the other Denny's on the other side of town. It's always dirty, and the people there, the waiters and the waitresses, they're not very helpful. And, so this was in my mind even then. I was looking at those kinds of things because I was being groomed. God was grooming me to do what I'm doing now. But I'll say this to you because of later things that happened later in my life, I was able to meet the owner of the Denny's that was closer to the house. He had several Denny's. And he was explaining to me how long he had the Denny's. And it just so happened that he had that Denny's long enough for me to have been a child when he had it. And I was asking him questions about his Denny's. And we became not just friends, but I did some work for him as I became a business consultant. And in that process, I was able to understand what it was that was different. The difference is he treated his employees like they were his business partners. And his business partners, okay, the employees, they actually treated his store, his restaurant, like they owned it. And so there was a difference in how they served people based on the concept of ownership, the concept and mindset of this is ours, it belongs to us, and what we do is different for people than what is being done probably everywhere else, which is the reason why his Denny's had a wait list. When you tried to go there on a Sunday, I mean, good luck because you're standing outdoors waiting to get inside. And on a Friday night, you can hang that up because every football team that had played anywhere near the Denny's was trying to get all of their friends in there for their after game meal. Okay. So I'm saying that when you're thinking about, your company, think about what it is that you can do to make it such that you have that ecosystem, that framework for the company, that mindset behind it. And so anyone that's doing work with you, for you, or alongside of you has the same concept. Like they are your partner. They're dialed in like they own it. They treat it like they own it. They don't do things with it that they wouldn't do for something. They treat it better than something that they would own. That's the concept you want to dial in to your company. So let's look at these strategies. So the first strategy is called value amplification. And if somebody can throw these up, Crystal, I know you're really good at this and putting things in the chat. Throw that in the chat for me. Value amplification. I'm going to make these notes available, of course, when um, uh, we go back and we post the notes to our YouTube. But I want people to be able to get it now. Value amplification. And what that is being able to embrace the mindset of viewing your business as a result of a currency exchange. What do I mean? Meaning that you are exchanging your sweat equity, your time, all of your energy for a business. Um, and that is really something that you want to think about. A lot of people, they buy franchises, right? They exchange their cash money, right, for their business. And some people exchange their retirement for the companies that they start. And so if you're able to view this as this exchange, then it can be trained inside of everyone that's doing business there with you, okay, that your company needs to be able to thrive without you. You have to understand that the wealth potential of your cash lies in your actionable steps towards maintaining its sustainable value and growth. If you can't maintain or sustain the value in the company, if you ever have to sell it or when you pass it down, the value won't be there. So you treat the company, right? The way it needs to be treated because you embrace that concept that you are trading your sweat equity, your time, your energy, your whatever you put into it to get it started, you know, for a business. And when you make that exchange, that takes some real thought process to make sure that you make it sustainable. You don't just put together any old thing because you want it to last. And that means that you're also looking at ways that you can pivot if something happens in the market. If something happens that what you do becomes, something that gets taken over by technology and now you're no longer relevant, then pivot. Think of something else you can add. Get assistance from a business coach or a business advisor so that you can learn how to continue your company, even though what you may have started with is not necessarily relevant. Let me tell you, during the pandemic, many, many, many companies ran into this as an issue because everything was taken online. So some of the things that they used to do in person were no longer needed. Many of those companies went out of business because they did not have a plan for this type of issue. Okay. And so they had plans for everything else and they had tons and tons of inventory just in case of this or that. And they did not have a way to use it because they couldn't figure out how to transition in a market that no longer required face to face interaction. And so I am saying to you, that you need to have actionable steps toward maintaining a sustainable value and growth in your company. And there are things that you can be thinking about now that will help you. If you're a coach and you're used to coaching in person, then think about what you can do to transition your services to more of an online fashion. It does not have to be online in Zoom. It could be in the metaverse, it could be over the phone. You could also transition to coaching in emails. People have coaching programs, entire programs that they do through newsletters, and people buy them because they're good. So I am saying that there are many different ways that you can think about what you do from a different perspective to maintain your sustainability and your growth. Okay. It's something that you want to be thinking about. So, strategy number one, value amplification, embracing the mindset of viewing your business as a result of a currency exchange. All right. Strategy number two, asset optimization. Now, I really want you to be thinking about having an offensive mindset and treating your business like it's the prized asset that it truly is. When people look at a company, a lot of times because of the work that goes into things, they start looking at it like a liability. They think about, man, I got to get up and I got to go clean these toilets so that the people that come in today will have clean toilets. And it's just like, oh gosh, this is so much work. I don't ever get a day off. I mean, they're thinking about all of the stuff that's going into it at the beginning, but they're not necessarily thinking about your company as an asset from the first day that you started. Matter of fact, your ideas are assets. Those are your intellectual properties, and they have a value. And because of that, you need to be looking at it from that perspective that everything you do, okay, you got to be executing these plays that optimize the asset, enhancing its performance, unlocking its full potential. Everything you add to the company is making it a more prized asset, excelling it in value. So you want to be thinking about it from the standpoint of, because my business is an asset, that I'm going to do whatever I can to protect it, okay, from vulnerabilities that could cause it to be worth less. Now, I want to say that, and I don't have time to deep dive into it today, but I want to say it again. When you're looking at your company, see it as an asset and would do everything that you can to protect it as an asset. If you had $1 million, you would not sit your $1 million on a table outside of your house and walk away from it. Okay, you wouldn't do that because you know that somebody, even though it's at your house on a table in front of your house and it's on your property, somebody looking at that can say, "Oh, that's $1 million. Or it looks like a lot of money. Let me grab that up. Ain't nobody looking." Okay, just saying. Okay, and so I want you to be thinking about, this is an asset. You need to do what you need to do. I heard one of our members, our red member, talk about, what can I do to trademark protect my idea? What can I do to get a patent? How can I do something to make sure that what I'm working on so diligently doesn't end up, in the hands of someone else that doesn't have this vision, that may not be their purpose. Okay. So think about that asset optimization. How do you optimize your asset by treating it with the care it deserves? Okay. Strategy number three, succession factoring. Okay. You've got to factor in the concept of succession into your company. Activate your succession factors by fostering a culture of collaboration, growth, talent development. You got to be thinking about this, because when you treat your people who are working with you well, when you sow into them, create opportunities for them to learn more, to understand how things work, when you're causing them to understand that them working with you is a collaboration, and that the energy that they're putting in is very well not just documented but treasured, that it's appreciated. And when you have this clear focus of passing your business on to future generations, employees, or new owners, you're thinking about, okay, every step, how do I create processes that other people are aware of? How do I make sure that everything that I do is going to not just serve the end goal, okay, but it also serves the people who are serving? And so I want to tell you that because it's important for you to be thinking about that with everything that you do in the company. You have to be thinking about your team. You have to be thinking about, how can I improve their expertise? How can I, strengthen their capabilities? What is it that I can do to make to them such that they are able to feel confident and, not and comfortable as they serve? All right. Recognize that the strength of your company lies in the collective capabilities and expertise of the team. It's not just about you, it's about everybody working with you. One person can tank a whole quarter. And trust and believe, I have watched it happen where somebody on a team of a company not being able to see themselves as a part of the whole did their work in such a way that it drove business away. And so I am saying to you that as you're, whether it's volunteers, whether it's people that are, I mean, a husband or a wife that's working alongside of you, whoever it is that's working to make sure that you're able to do what you do, make sure you are sowing into them and understanding that them being strengthened, them being improved, them being raised to another level is going to also mean that the company is going to elevate as well. All right, strategy number 4, structural efficiency. Okay, so this is a really important one because you have got to strategically design and optimize your business formation to orchestrate structural efficiency. You got to create a game plan that regularly evaluates what you're doing because sometimes you don't even realize the unintended consequences of things that you put in place in the company. And if you're not evaluating or assessing things along the way in enough time, you end up in a situation where, again, a quarter is, you know, a whole quarter is not working the way it's supposed to because of that. So create a game plan that regularly evaluates and fine tune, refine, okay, refine what you're doing so that the structure of the business is well coordinated and streamlined. And so sometimes, and I have to say this, we don't realize how hard we're working and we're not making any progress in certain areas because we don't have a streamlined, well coordinated system. Our businesses need to run like well-oiled machines, and that takes some real evaluation. I had to stop and look at our calendaring process, and we worked on it even though I was resting yesterday. My husband and I spent a considerable amount of time talking about the calendar and how we can do something even more streamlined. And I made changes last month. We're going to make changes this month too, because we want to make it easier for people to understand what's going on daily and how do they get to us? How do they set an appointment for this thing or that thing? How do they make sure that they get their appointments in a timely fashion? How do they understand that they can get appointments that are not on the calendar? There are other ways to get an appointment. What is it that we can do? So these are things that we went through because our system is not as well coordinated as we'd like. We evaluated it again to see there's still people who don't seem to be able to get an appointment when they need one. And we need to make sure that we're able to provide that, even if they're not having an appointment with me. Okay, so we've got to make sure that because there are other people that can answer questions and help them. They just don't know it to be the case. So we are refining and fine tuning our system. You should do the same. That strategy of structural efficiency can really lead your company to be more valuable. And as you're passing it along, it passes along a culture where people are not scared to evaluate or assess. People become scared of internal audit. They don't want the process because they think that it's going to open them up to something that they are not sure what they will be able to do with. I am saying the more times that you are able to evaluate during the year, the better you are because you can see things that you might not be able to see when you're in the moment, when you actually step back and look at what's going on. Okay, strategy number 5, unownership advantage. Okay, this is a big one because people are really tied to ownership. And let me tell the little story that I often will tell when I'm speaking in different places. I talk about the fact that in our culture, as people of African descent, because of the fact that we were, trafficked and taken to places that was not our homeland, when we become owners of something, we don't necessarily want to relinquish ownership. So this is a big deal for a lot of people. So I want to say to you that it's really important that you're thinking about ownership as an advantage, okay, not a disadvantage. You need to harness the power of unownership. It's a game changing strategy to maximizing your profits. If you can, and I even say it's a profit liberator because if you can run the company, and shift your focus from traditional ownership to strategic utilization, okay, you unlock the full potential of your assets. And what do I mean by that? There are some times when you can actually shift the company's ownership to something that's more protected from risk and from creditors. And we don't have time to go into all of that today because we do talk about, utilizing trusts and other types of entities, holding companies to give you the ability to protect your asset, your company, okay, and protect it in a way that is makes it not vulnerable to risk and not vulnerable to costly lawsuits and things that are just something that you couldn't even imagine could possibly happen. We had a client that had this occur where they weren't sure that they were protected and they were in the process of doing something, but they didn't put everything together the way they needed to before they started the company. They just kind of went out there and they were vulnerable to a lawsuit within a short period of time. And it almost tanked the company. So I'm wanting you to be thinking about, what it is that you can do. And we have strategies for that. We've got not an app for that, but we got a system for that. So, if you're listening to this and you want to learn more, create the opportunity for you to come to one of our sessions or webinars or set up an appointment because we really want to talk to you about how you can protect your company from risk. The unownership advantage is probably one of the most well-timed plays that most business owners who do it have ever put into motion. So think about that. Now, what's the scalability play? This is strategy number 6. How can you transform your business into a scalable model that can grow exponentially without being limited by resources or operational constraints? Let me break that down. In other words, you can turn your business into something that over time it grows without you being in a situation where you can't provide the services because too many people showed up on a particular day. There have been times where people um, have had companies that ended up not being able to be around long enough to provide services because they couldn't get the scale right. They could not figure out how do I continue serving people. I've now got 15 times the amount of customers that I have, and I have a fulfillment process that doesn't allow me to serve them all. I don't have enough team members to get things out on time. It makes me look bad because people are waiting months for their products. So what is it that I need to do to develop systems, processes, or put technologies in place that allow for seamless expansion, replication, and adaptation to capture the new markets and the growth opportunities that are there for me. How do I put these things together, and what can I do to make sure that I've got the scale right, that I can actually scale my company? All right. That's a big one. So make sure that you get that scalability play in tow. All right, strategy number 7. I know a lot of you guys are going to watch this again because I'm kind of working through these pretty fast. But if you're not able to, take the notes, do believe I'm going to put the notes in the description section of the YouTube, so that you can take advantage of this. All of this is coming right from the trilogy of books that I wrote called Built to Pass. So you might want to get the books because it actually tells stories and show how to put this into play in different settings. Okay, so the books really do help you understand that, and they're available on the website patiencerose.com/books. Okay, so you can actually go there and look in the bookstore and get the 3 books, the Built to Pass books, because they're really, really good books for you to learn how to use this, what I'm talking about. Strategy number 7, operational independence. Okay, being set up in such a way that you're able to extract yourself from the day-to-day operations of your business because you're building a strong team, delegating responsibilities, and implementing systems and technologies that empower your employees or volunteers or others to effectively handle operational tasks. That is a mouthful, but let me just say it this way: freeing yourself to focus on strategic initiatives, innovation, and long term growth. So you're not the one having to do certain types of mundane tasks that could be done by someone else or could be done by some technology, so you can be free to do the work that you are been designed to do. It's really important that if you are running a company, that you're not positioning yourself so that you have to do every single thing. And if you're a solopreneur, there are ways that you can do this by using technologies, by contracting with other companies to do certain things. And you want to make sure that you start to do that before year 5. You don't want to be doing the solopreneurship thing without any assistance of technologies or other virtual assistants or whatever else you can do for longer than year 1. And the reason for that is because if you can't do that, you won't be around until year 5 most of the time. So think about having operational independence. How do you structure things in your company so that you are extracted from the day to day? Okay. And only deployed to do the things that are part of what you do best. Why people come to your company usually is because of what it is that you created the company to be. Make sure you're able to make the company do what it is that you created it to do so that people can continue to have access to what your company does. Strategy number 8: succession mindset. Begin extracting yourself um, when you're thinking about the day-to-day operations. You want to extract yourself from your business by building a strong team. Okay, and so when you're doing this with succession in mind, okay, it actually does create the ability for strategy number 7, which is that operational independence, to work the way it's supposed to. Building the company in a way that you're looking at who are my key players. Who are people that I could pass this company along to? Is there a child that might want the company? Or for that matter, is there one of my managers that might want to participate in leadership roles? Are there people that may want to buy the company? And if you're thinking about that from the beginning, if your company's end goal is to sell it, then you're going to do things very differently than you would if you don't have that in mind. So having a succession mindset from the very beginning helps you to think about every part of your company differently. What is it that I can do to help, if I'm going to have this situation where I'm turning it over to my kids, to help make sure that the kids understand how the company works and why they might want the company, what it is that the company has to offer. Sometimes people don't want to take on a company because they don't really understand how they could benefit from it. Or for that matter, they might see you working your fingers to the bone without any kind of operational independence. And for that reason, this is a thing where it's like, you know what, I don't think I want to do that when I become an adult, okay? Or I don't think I want to do that when I, take over anybody's company, so much less my mom's, okay, or my dad's. So what you want to think about is, what are the things that you can do to really design um, a company that people would want, period? Not just people that, are looking at it from the standpoint of the finances, because yes, the money might be there, but what is the trade-off? Do I have all the support? Do I have everything in place to be able to run this company efficiently? So think about that. Okay, strategy number 9: growth navigation. Steer your business towards strategic growth by seizing opportunities, leveraging market trends, and adapting to customer demands. It's so important that you are employing some kind of a meticulous game plan that includes, looking at the market. What is everyone else that has this kind of business doing? What are the trends that are making them successful? Didn't say that you would have to take those things and put them into your company. I said you need to know about them, because if you're their competitor, you need to know what you're competing against. And it's important that you adapt to your customer demands. Sometimes customers need change, just like during the pandemic, where people needed to have things that were, single use. And you might have had a company that were providing things in such a way that there were no single use options. And so looking at what happened in that scenario gave you a different way of transitioning your company to serve the customer better. Your customer demands change because safety rules changed and because safety needs changed. So employing this game plan that included, the ability to see, what kind of strategies you had need of, what type of innovative partnerships you could put in place so that you would better be able to do what you do. How can you diversify your efforts? As a growth navigator, you are really charting your own course, and you're charting your course with the sustainable impact that you really want and the expansion that you want with your business. So, have growth navigation in a place in your mind and heart that really will help you to build out the company in a way that it is looking at, the customer demands. Okay. Strategy 10, people centric advantage. How do you cultivate a people centric culture that values and invests your team's success? Well, you have to foster this, collaboration mindset. Help people to not be thinking about competition as they work with you and for you. It is so important that you extinguish the concept of competition. If you're going to have any kind of competition, let people compete against their previous success, not compete against others, because that will drive the company into the ground. And you need to understand that empowerment and continuous development is something that's so, so, so important. By prioritizing the well being and growth of your employees and your partners, your customers, and even your stakeholders, you drive a superior business performance and create a strong foundation. You make your company more valuable and you have long term success. So think about this from a people centric standpoint. People over process, people over profits. You see that, a lot of times in the background of some of my other videos. I have that there. It's really important that you're thinking about people first. People are the best capital. There's a human capital, and that's why you do what you do. And when you do your business thinking about people first, then you do things differently to make sure that the company is there, for the long term. And you create the ability for you to have what's called a customer lifetime value, a longer customer lifetime value. Okay, strategy 11, future proof your vision. Okay, embrace a visionary mindset and develop a plan that anticipates future trends. It embraces innovation that looks at, opportunities that you can seize. As the visionary of this company, I have to be thinking about, okay, what may be different this year than we experienced last year, and what are we seeing, over the next 7 years, the next 10 years? How can we grow this company so that it is going to be able to serve people better? We've made so many changes since 2017. The things that we were doing in 2017 would not adequately serve the people that we have here now. So I have got to constantly be looking at this thing from that standpoint. And so should you. You shape the future trajectory of your business with foresight and adaptability. Some of you guys who are on the call with us every morning, you notice before we go live, we pray. And I'm always praying for insight and foresight and wisdom because we need that in order to adapt the company's concepts in a way that will future proof our vision, that extends it beyond us. Okay, strategy number 12. We're here at the top of the hour. And so we're going to actually share this one, leverage history. This is so, so important. Harness the wisdom of your past victories to inform your present and future strategies. You can't look at your and everything you do in your business without thinking about all the things you've already done. Okay, so you gotta be a legacy navigator. Navigate the path to continued success by building upon your rich history and leveraging it as a competitive advantage. There are things that we did from the very beginning that if we didn't stand on the shoulders of the people who helped us get there, we would not be able to do what we're doing now. We have people who are part of our board, people who have, contributed so much rich value to what it is that we do. And as a result of that, we're able to continue doing what we do at a level that far exceeds others that have been out there. We are a company that's different. And we've been able to remain different because of us being able to leverage history. Well, I'm excited to have shared the Built to Pass strategies with you. They are available in the book, or in all three of the books that we have written. So please take advantage of those. Built to Pass, creating a company that lasts beyond you, I think is the first one. And there's three of them. Go to the bookstore and get them. patiencerose.com/books. We have to jump off right now because of the fact that we're at the top of the hour and we have another class that starts in a few minutes. But um, take advantage of all that you've seen here. And I'm going to, exactly. Kevin says, can we put the books in the book link in the chat? I'm going to do that right now. Um, and because I want people to be able to take advantage of these. And we even, if you send us an email or a text message, we give away one of these as an audio book. So that might be a way for you to get into the books themselves by getting the first one as the audiobook because it is available for free right now. um, and you can also go to builttopass.com because all of the books are available there. Builttopass.com. So I'm putting that in the chat as well. The Construct a Company That Lives Beyond You is the first one. The second one is Built to Pass, Growing an Organization That Transcends You. And the third one is Built to Pass, Building a Legacy That Endures Because of You. So I think each of these is $12.95 um, for the paperback and $19.95 for the hardcover. But like I said, if you are interested, you can send us a message at admin@redworldwide.org and we will send you the link to our audiobook. We still are allowing people to gain access to that audiobook. Um, uh, and so we want you to do that as well. Okay. So I just put builttopass.com, not built to pass. It's built to pass, Pass. Okay. So builttopass.com. I have a list. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Well, we have been so excited to bring these to you this morning. This has been a very special session, and we've been looking forward to doing this for a while. And so we are excited that you've been able to be with us. And we look forward to those of you going to be with us tomorrow. We'll be talking about innovation and creativity, and we want you to be a part of that session here on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide. We see you.